Hello everyone and welcome back for your third Fusion 360 tutorial. Today we'll be working on revolves. As we progress through these tutorials, they should be getting easier and possibly slightly shorter than the first few tutorials were. So to start out today, we're going to open up a new design. You can do that here, or you can click the new tab up here along the top. Go ahead and save this. To start out, I would name it Revolve and then put your name. Just like the previous one, I'm not going to save this one, but you should make sure that you save yours. Again, this does not work like Google Drive. You do have to make sure that you are actively saving everything frequently so that you don't lose any of your work and you know that you have the latest version as you're working. So to start out, we're going to create a sketch here on the front plane. As always, I'm going to start out with this trapezoid-like shape, like that. And then you also want a vertical line out here to the side that we're going to use as an axis later. You do have to draw your own axis. You can't use the coordinate system axes as your axis. You have to draw your own. So we're going to add in some dimensions here and some constraints. I want this to be vertical. If you don't make this vertical when we revolve it, then it's going to create like a funnel shape. So just be mindful of that this vertical constraint is extremely important. We also want these to run, parallel to one another, not equal. We want them to run parallel to one another. If this line is not parallel to this one, then it'll create sort of like a bell shape. Again, just be mindful of that whenever you go and create revolves and the constraints that are necessary. Next, we're going to go in and add some dimensions. So looking at the drawing, I want this line, this line here to have an aligned dimension of 0.35, and then the width of between these two lines to be 0.25. Remember that an aligned dimension is not the same as like a horizontal or a vertical. We want the aligned value to be 0.35. And then we want the width between the two lines to be 0.25. We want the height of the left line to be 1 and the height of the right line to be 1.5. And then your trapezoid shape should adjust itself accordingly. And then one final dimension, we want the distance between the sketch that you create or this shape that we have and then that vertical line that we're going to use as an axis to be 0.5. So from here to here, we want this to be 0.5. We'll finish that sketch, zoom out a bit so we can see what we're working with. I also, again, like to rotate it, and we'll use the revolve command. You want to choose your profile as if it hasn't already selected it for you, which mine did. You can see it's highlighted in blue. And then next it's asking for the axis. You want to select that vertical line that we drew as our axis. You can choose here under type if you want it to go at a specified angle or if you want it to go fully around. For this one, we want to have a full revolution. So that eliminates the angle distance option for you. Once you select full, we'll just press OK. And then that brings us to our 3D shape. You have one more shape to create, which is going to be a rectangular prism with a circle revolved into a sphere on top of it. We're going to start out with a rectangular shape that's 1.5 by 1.25 and then extruded 0.5 inches. What's really great about Fusion compared to Onshape or Inventor is the fact that we can create a sketch on these planes that are already present without having to make like a tangent work plane or something like that just to get a sketch on there. So we can start here, and then I'm going to draw that rectangular shape again. Remember, keep these things semi-close together just so that I can see it all at the same time. The dimensions, I think, were 1.75 by 1.25. If that's incorrect, I will change that. So looking back, yes, that is correct. If for some reason you typed the wrong thing in, remember you can always double click there and modify those dimensions. Now I'm going to finish that sketch and extrude it. The distance we want for this is to be 0.5, no tapered angle, just a very simple rectangular prism. Then we're going to add a sketch to the top of the box and create this semicircle shape here with a height of 1 that also creates a radius of 0.5, and then we want it to be located 0.875 from the left edge and vertically centered. So I'm going to start a sketch here. I want a line in the middle. Actually, no, don't do that. Because if you align it in the mid, if you snap it to that midpoint, you won't be able to add at 0.875 dimension later, which I think tends to confuse people. Also, mine is snapping to this grid, which I'm finding slightly annoying. So you can change that by selecting here and then uncheck the grid snap. I prefer to just be able to click where I want to click. And then I want the length of this to be 1. And then I want it to be located from here to here to be 0.875, like that. And I'm just going to move this up a little bit. I don't have a dimension on that, and as you can see, it is slightly off here in the sketch. And so now I'm going to come back in and add an arc. Oops, that's a line. Drop down box, find your arc. And then I'm going to do a 3-point arc, select here, and then drag it out like that. Once I get this point here for my arc, I'm going to add a coincident constraint, and I want to select the point of the arc and then the line, and it should adjust. This is what we were trying to use in the first tutorial for that heart-shaped figure, and for some of us it worked and some of us it didn't, but that is the goal that we had whenever trying to make that. So select OK, and then we're going to finish this sketch. And by adding that coincident constraint of the center point to here, it will give it that same radius as half of this line. So once you get there, we're going to revolve. Again, I like to be at an isometric view so I can see everything I'm working with. For the profile, since we have a couple things to work with, it doesn't automatically select it, so we want to select that semicircle. For the axis, you want to choose the vertical line of that semicircle. And then notice it's turning it red. Remember, red means it's going to cut something out, and you see it automatically shows cut. So if you do that, you'll see it carves out the inside, which looks kind of like an optical illusion here. But instead, we want to change to an angle, and then we want that angle to be 180. So it puts that sphere on the top. Let me cancel and delete that and redo it. Then I'm going to revolve one more time, selecting that profile, selecting that axis, changing it to an angle and doing 180 degrees. Now you can see it worked. It's probably because I had cut here and wasn't paying attention, but that's okay. So select OK, and then there you go. And these videos may not be seamless, but I do that just so in case you're making similar mistakes, then you can kind of see why whatever is happening on your screen isn't working. And that was because I had this on cut instead. So if I change this back to 360 and have it on cut like before, and then I try to edit that, if I make this 180, it's not going to work because it doesn't have anything to cut out. And that is what I was missing before, what I wasn't paying attention to. So if you change that back to join, you'll see it pops up at the top. What you could do if you wanted to cut, I think, is make that negative, and now you can see it's cutting it it's revolving in the opposite direction, so now it does have something to cut. So those are just little things that it's easy to overlook and get frustrated with if it's not working correctly. So just pay attention to all of the options that you have in your dialog box. So once you're here with your added piece to the top of your box like this, then you have completed the tutorial. Make sure you save an updated copy, and then you will share your link from there. If you don't save it though before you share, I will not get the latest version.